Okay, I know I said that I wasn't going to buy any yarn, but there is a reason, I promise. So I recently placed an order from the Wool Factory, so I thought we could do like a little unboxing and I can show you what I got. Maybe there's not a reason for this bag to be as big as it currently is, but there is a reason for the initial order. And I do have a discount code for the Wool Factory if you are interested in placing an order. It is off the entire website, which does include the clearance. And it also includes their kind of accessories, so knitting needles, crochet hooks, stitch markers, that sort of thing. It applies to the entire website. So my partner's birthday is coming up in August, and over the summer he's been asking for a button-up shirt, and he really wants it to be kind of like, he's shown me some inspiration photos. Some of what he's asking me to do, I'm not sure if I can achieve that. So I kind of went through some bits with him as to what I could actually do. He wants kind of like a lacy button-up shirt that he can just kind of throw over when it's maybe like a little bit chilly in the summertime, but it's not going to be super roasting hot, so he can still wear it on warmer days. So that's the first thing. He's very particular about where and when he's going to be wearing this shirt. So for me, that's a little bit more difficult because then I need to kind of make sure that I've got the correct fiber. I need to make sure that the kind of shirt that I create is for what he wants, for the purpose that he wants. We were talking about it at the beginning of the summer, and he's almost definitely forgot about the fact that he's asked for it. So that works in my favor because then it means I can kind of secretly work on this, and hopefully it will be a really great surprise for him. He showed me some inspiration photos, and mainly what I gathered is that he wants like a kind of patchwork square button-up shirt, but he wants the patches to be kind of lacy. He wants them to be kind of light. And if you saw my tutorial for the In Bloom flower square, that is basically what he wanted. So he was showing me a bunch of different squares. I showed him my In Bloom square and he was like, that's basically what I want. He also really loves an African flower granny square. So I'm thinking of maybe like alternating the In Bloom square with an African flower granny square and maybe like a more solid square. So it kind of looks quite cohesive, but it still looks kind of different and unique across the shirt. He was also then very specific about the color palette that he wanted. He is a very picky person when it comes to his clothes, which is fine, but not when I'm the one making it for him. So it took him a while to kind of describe the shade that he wanted. He wanted something neutral. He's not really somebody who wears like a lot of bright colors, ironically, because, you know, I wear a lot of bright colors, but he is very much into his neutral shades, his kind of navy, gray, black, beige, white, that sort of color palette. Maybe some dark green thrown in. That's kind of as wild as his color palette really gets. So he really was very specific about the kind of color that he wanted. He said he wanted like a kind of beigey, off-white, camel kind of tone, like a tan kind of color. And so that just added like an additional layer of difficulty in selecting the right yarn. But that being said, I do believe I have found the perfect yarn for him. So I decided to go with this yarn from the Wool Factory. This is their own brand yarn, which I think is just so cool, the fact that they have their own brand of yarn. So it's the Wool Factory Pearl Sky DK. It is 100% acrylic, but I have worked with this brand yarn before in my shell crochet t-shirt, which I also did a tutorial on that you can check out. So I have worked with this yarn before, and it really does work up like a cotton. It's also a really nice fine weight. So I think it's going to add to that kind of like lacy feel and that lacy look that he wants. But it's going to provide a little bit of warmth. But because the fact that it's lacy, it won't be too hot. So I feel like I've got the balance correct. Let's hope. So this is the shade that I've gone for. It is shade number 2. And it's this kind of like off-white, slightly beige sort of color palette. It kind of looks a little bit more white on the camera, but it's definitely more of like a kind of off-white, tan, slightly camel kind of shade. So I think shade-wise, I've got it perfect. And these are $1.99 for an 100-gram skein, and I got 6 of them. So I think that should be enough for like a nice loose shirt. We are very different sizes, me and him. So I feel like 600 grams will be enough. And if not, this is the Wool Factory's own brand yarn, so I'm sure I can pick up some more just in case I run out. And of course, whilst I was perusing on the Wool Factory's website, I couldn't not get some yarn for myself. They're currently doing a clearance sale, and some of their yarn is £1 for a 100-gram skein, which is just unbelievably cheap, unbelievably affordable. So, I mean, I couldn't not, you know. And this one I've actually been eyeing up for a little while. I was eyeing it up before it went on their clearance sale, but it's this really beautiful kind of green, limey green with this like white kind of color going through it. So it's a variegated yarn. It's a really beautiful, beautiful color palette. It's just lovely. I really, really like this. It's kind of like, reminds me of like lime, kind of ice lolly, sherbety sort of vibe. It's a really, really beautiful color. So the brand is called Azur, A-Z-U-R. So this is in shade 400005, but I believe this is the only shade that they have currently left of this brand. And this was £1 for 100-gram skein, which is just incredibly affordable. I did get 7 of them, so £7 for like a sweater or a cardigan or something is insanely affordable for me. But yeah, I really love this color palette. I feel like it's going to be really kind of like nice and bright. I also have a lot of clothes that will go with this color palette, which is something that I really consider when I do purchase yarn. Like, as much as I love a color palette, am I going to have something that I can pair with this in my wardrobe already? I also decided to pick up some of their Sunbeam DK, and these ones were £1.50 per 100-gram skein, and they had a bunch of different colours in stock. I got this really beautiful, it's like a baby pink, a kind of buttery lemon yellow, and a white, and it's again a variegated yarn. This is ironically the exact same colour palette I used for my crochet t-shirt. If you've seen my tutorial, it is the exact same colour palette, which I'm not mad at. I love a variegated yarn. I actually really love this colour palette as well, and again, I have lots of clothes that I know I can pair really easily with this kind of color palette. But here is what it looks like. It's a really, really beautiful, beautiful color palette. I really, really like how it looks. And it's a double knit, so it's a nice weight. It's not too heavy, it's not too thin, so it's going to work up really nicely. And this is in shade 2650. And then I picked up some of the Sunbeam Aran, which I have worked with before in a different color palette, but I decided to pick up some of the Aran because I think it just works up so, so nicely. I really like Sunbeam's yarn, and I really like their color palettes because they're just really fun, variegated yarn color combinations. So this is the Aran that I decided to get. Again, this is £1.50, and this is in shade 2645, and it's this really beautiful mixture of like, it's got some peach, some kind of light pastel green, a pastel purple, some white in there. And it's, again, a very pastel kind of color palette, but it's really, really cute. I love this. It kind of reminds me of like an ice cream. I'm not sure why, but it's giving like ice cream vibes. I think this is going to work up so, so nicely. I really enjoy using acrylic yarn, especially for my winter and my autumn wearables. I think it's really warm, it's really cozy, has a great longevity if you look after your acrylic wearables. And yeah, I just really love them. I've worked with Sunbeam yarn before, really, really enjoy their yarn. I've worked with this brand before, but not in this like yarn weight, and I really enjoyed their yarn as well. I don't have any issues or any problems with using acrylic yarn. I personally wouldn't use acrylic for any summer wearables, just purely because I get so hot really, really quickly, so I need something that's a bit more cooler and a little bit lighter. But I love working with acrylic, and I really don't think that you should shame people or shame anyone or yourself for using acrylic, because there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I say that only because there is a little bit of kind of discourse in the fiber arts community that acrylic yarn is really, really bad, which, don't get me wrong, it's not the greatest for the environment. So if you're kind of looking to be a bit more eco-friendly, acrylic is probably not it. But acrylic is often the cheapest yarn that you can find. It's the most affordable. So in order for you to do your craft, in order for you to kind of create clothes, if that's what you're doing, in order for you to basically enjoy your hobby, getting acrylic yarn, there's nothing wrong with it. I've also just spotted that I got this in the bag as well. I didn't actually clock this, but the Wool Factory have a sister site called the Button Barn, which I believe is relatively new. If you know anything about me, I love buttons. I am a slut for buttons. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the autistic in me, but I love buttons. Growing up, my mum used to have this pickle jar full of like random buttons that she just kind of found, or she got from different clothes if they'd fallen off and stuff. And I used to love going through this pickle jar full of random buttons, organizing them all and having my favorites. And she recently, when I started getting into crochet, she brought her pickle jar to me, and I raided the whole jar, So now I have my own kind of little collection of buttons that are from my mum, which I think is just like a really lovely kind of like full circle moment, especially the fact that I used to love this jar of buttons so much when I was younger. So yeah, I really love buttons. So let's open this cute little packet as well. It says, do you love buttons? This is a free gift from the Button Barn. Oh, these are so cute. And these are the buttons that I have got in there. There's 4 of them. And they're this really cute, really small kind of white ones. And they have like a little bit of like, they have like some ridges on the edges. These are really, really cute. These are going to look so lovely on like a little cardigan or like a little button up or something, maybe something with like a collar. I think these would look really, really lovely. But I love a cute little simple button. I think these are adorable. So that's everything I got from the Wool Factory. Like I mentioned, if you are interested in placing an order, I do have a discount code, which I'll put in the description below. But yeah, that's everything I got, and I can't wait to get started on these projects.